Today we are going to make a simple Kiridashi knife. What I have here is a 12-inch by 1.5-inch ball of 1095 high carbon steel. First off, you're going to measure 5.5 inches in one direction, mark it off, then turn the ball around and measure again 5.5 inches, and then draw a line between the two. So that way when you cut it there, you already have a start of the cutting edge of the knife. You'll want to start with the part that will be the blade here, as we'll start hammering down the edge about right in here to start giving it that curve shape. Now that we've got the steel hot, you'll want to start putting it about an inch or so away and start hammering it down to start getting that curve shape. You'll need to stop every once in a while to hammer down the flat of the blade itself to continue to make sure it stays flat. As you can see here, we already get kind of that curve shape there, and we find to have a fall down you would like to make it comfortable for cutting on a flat surface like so. So to continue on, I'm going to go from here and start shaping the rest of the knife. Right now I'm carving off the end of the hilt just a bit, just to give it a kind of a round shape. Again, make sure to hammer the flat every now and then to make sure the blade stays straight. Right now I'm going to hammer in some of the hilt here to kind of push in the belly. See, it's starting to form slightly. Make sure to leave enough here at the end to keep that a rounded shape so the hand doesn't slip off through the back. And then I also leave a bit rounded up here just as kind of a finger hold. So that way a finger can go here and then the rest of the palm can go here. At this point, before I do any further shaping, I'm going to go ahead and put my mark on it. What this is an identification to who made this knife. I put mine near the blade, but not exactly on it. So about right in here will do. And you can see it there. Now, since putting the mark on, I've done a bit more shaping, as you can see. But what I'm going to do now is add some holes for the pins that I'll later be adding on during the handle. To begin with, I start with a square punch. Then I make one of the holes about right here. Once you've all the way through one side, you want to flip the knife over and punch back through this side. That helps just flatten everything out and makes the hole stable. What I'm going to do now is stretch this out with a round punch just to make sure it's large enough to fit a pin. Let's see here. Perfect. After this, you put in another hole about right in there. Okay, now that we've got the holes punched in, you'll want to make sure the blade is nice and straight and we're going to heat up the end there to where the cutting edge is going to be. This is the point where we quench the knife. I use vegetable oil. I find that has a very, at least for me, a very good rate and keeps a good hardness on the knife. But you can use motor oil or some other different kinds of oils, but you need to make sure that it's clean. So don't use anything that you've used, say, after a oil change in a vehicle. Don't use the old oil because of the impurities in it. Give that a few more seconds to heat up real good. See here, you want to heat it up to where it's non-magnetic. I don't have a magnet, but that seems to be where it's good for me. Then you dunk it into the oil slowly. There will be some fire and some flames, and it could possibly flare up. And don't wiggle it around, as that could cause the blade to bend. Okay. Shake off some of the excess oil. What you want to do now is take a file, and you hear that? That's on the normal steel. You hear that? There's a slightly different ring to it. That means that it is holded, and at this point it is quite fragile. So if I would hit this against the anvil, it could possibly shatter very easily. What I do now is heat it up barely to a slight red. Make sure to recover the oil, but not completely, to make sure it cools off. What I'm doing now is called tempering. I use an ammo can full of sand. Fine sand without impurities. So once this is heated up to a red, which will take another minute or so here, you'll want to put it in the sand and let it sit for, I usually let it sit for about 3 hours. Take it out, heat it up again, and then put it back in the sand. I do this 2, 3 or so times, depending on the blade. Just so that way it takes out that brittleness in the hardness of the knife. So let's see here. That's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and stick it in there. I do use a thermometer just to see how much heat is around it. And I have seen this get up to 400. So it is very easy can. And the reason I use sand is because I find it's a good insulator. And some days I'll do 2 or 3 knives, and the sand helps insulate it all and keeps the heat in where it takes out that brittleness. Up there we go. So as you can see there, 200, 250. A little over 250, 300, might go up a little bit more, might not. So now I just leave that there for about 3 hours or so. One thing I forgot to mention is that after you've quenched the knife, you'll want to make sure it's still straight, as the quench can warp it a little bit. If that's the case, then while you're tempering it, heating it up to be tempered, you can straighten it up just a little bit, but still be careful of the edge there, as that is still hard and that could shatter. So very light, soft blows and pushes just to make sure it is flat and straight. Now that I've tempered this a couple times, we'll want to clean it up, which I use a wire wheel for, just to shine it all up, and then a grinder just to put out any bumps and knots, and just to finish shaping it. Again, you can shape this however much you want on the forge or the wire wheel. It's 50-50 either way. So whichever way is best for you. Now that you've got one side attached to the knife, you'll want to drill the holes and cut out the parts here around the knife just to start getting it into shape. After that, you'll sand it down till it's flush with the knife. As you can see here, I finished sanding down and making the handles smooth with the rest of the blade, with the rest of the knife. All that's left to do is the other side now. Now that you've got both sides of the handle on, you'll want to put in some rivets down in the middle of the holes there. I use 1/4-inch round steel, but you can use wood, steel, just about anything you would like. And now that we've got the handles all shaped, smoothed out, along with the pins there all flattened off to make a smooth surface, all that's left is to sharpen them. Now that I've finished putting the handle on both sides and shaping it slightly, it's time to sharpen the blade. For this, I use a grind-off to grind off the metal steel here about 90% of the way before I finish with an oil spill, which helps give it a nice sharp finish, and then put it on the strap there just to take off any balls or small imperfections you might have missed. Okay, now it's nice and sharp. For this one, I put a double bevel on. On this side here, I put a slight shallow grind. This one here is a slightly steeper grind. I could put on just a single bevel and just grind one side down, but I tend to find that that makes anything you cut tends to veer off easily sometimes. So I put on double bevel just to help make any cuts you make stay the course. And to test the sharpness, I call that pretty sharp. Let's try that again. Yep, that's a nice sharp cut.